Shreveport City Council is now called to order. Brandon to lead us in prayer, and Councilman Flory will lead us in the pledge.
Thank you, Chair. Let's look to the Lord. Father, you're so wonderful, and for your loving kindness, we thank you. And with great gratitude, we approach you. Father, I ask you to bless the chair and the council as they conduct business today. Thank you for our wonderful mayor. Continue to bless her and her leadership. And Father, we thank you for Shreveport and remind us that we are better together. Behold how good and how pleasant it is, you said, for brethren to dwell together in unity. And this is what we will do. God, in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Thank you. Thank you, Bishop, for your prayer.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being with us today as we transact the business of the city. At this time, I'm asked, Madam Clerk, if you would call the roll, please.
Mr. Bradford.
Present.
Mr. Everson.
Here.
Mr. Jenkins.
Present.
Mr. Corbin.
Present.
Mr. Fleury.
Present.
Ms. Lynch. Mr. Bowman.
We have a quorum. We may continue. I would entertain a motion that we adopt the minutes of our administrative meeting. Second. We move in second. We adopt the minutes of our previous meetings, the administrative council, as well as the council meeting. In discussion, not, you may vote, please. The motion passes 5-0-2, not in the chamber. We're down to awards and recognition of distinguished guests, and I'm asked the council member if they have anyone that they'd like to recognize.
I do. Mr. Rod Williams from University Health is here, and I believe he has some people with him and a presentation. So if you would come up, and we'd invite you up to the podium now, and appreciate hearing from you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, Mayor Tyler, members of the council, thanks for having me here. Actually, before I begin, let me introduce two of my distinguished colleagues. Community Affairs Executive, I think most of you know, Lindora Baker, who's doing an excellent job with us. We also have Rosie James, who's doing an equally excellent job with us. And the other reason I'm able to stand here before you this afternoon. I want to be brief and respect the time allotted for this presentation, but I thought it would be helpful for the council and the leadership of the city to understand with some degree of detail the crown jewel that you have over on Kings Highway by way of University Health. And I think you'll see some qualitative things that I'll present to you, but you'll also see the organization by the numbers. But I think when you see the numbers just in and of themselves, the impact that we have on the organization, on the community, is quite significant. I start the history simply because it's a great history. We are a 2-year-old organization. We were born in 2013, and we, in 135 days, we stood up a hospital. The state chose the Biomedical Research Foundation as the private partner for the hospitals, and that decision in and of itself was a pretty significant decision, because we're able to really rescue out of the throes of death the Level 1 Trauma Center. And as you'll see in the presentation, that trauma center is a fairly significant impact on the community here. The privatization is designed to ensure a safety net hospital is always available to this community, and that's one of the things that we want to make sure we fight really hard to do and to maintain. And we have a strong partnership, despite what you may see and read. We do have a very strong partnership with LSU, at School of Medicine on the campus. A great partnership, so much to the tune that we pay about $200 million for the services that we have on site at the campus. We are a solid impact on the community in and of itself. We have a positive impact when we total between the goods that we purchase, the services that we provide. You net that out, we're probably north of $1 billion in its impact on the community. And since 2013, we've consistently met, as you'll see in the presentation, or we've exceeded the public purpose, which is the full intent of the mission and vision statement for the organization. And we continue to serve the patients in the School of Medicine in ways that serves this community quite well. So by the numbers, you'll see that we have 2 hospitals in our system. I'll speak clearly more on the Shreveport side, although I'm reflective of the Conway work that's done at UH Conway. We have 452 licensed beds, and there's rarely a day when we don't have a significant amount of capacity at the hospital. We are full most of the time. Our employees, about 2,600 or so employees on the campus, about 300 or so physicians, and we are experiencing record-setting numbers for our residents and our fellows in the hospital. They are now enjoying a record-setting number of residents that are on the campus as well. Just the volumes in and of itself are astounding when you look at it just from a leadership perspective and what we have to manage through each and every day. 20,000 inpatients at the campus. If you look at our clinics and all our outpatient services, about 387,000 visits. In many locations, that's actually the size of a small hospital, and yet we see that on our outpatient side of the business. Our emergency room is very busy, as you know. We closed the books on 70,000 plus ER visits. A couple of slides later, I'll talk specifically about the ED. But the trauma center, we set a goal to have our trauma cases really to be around 5,000 in a 5-year period. I venture to say that now in 2 years, we're probably going to we'll hit that number, hit that target sooner rather than later. Now, it's not a boastful situation to say that you have 2,200 traumas in a domain. It's not a boastful situation. But what is boastful is that the lives that are saved from the fact that we have those trauma cases here in this community. And I echo the fact that the Level 1 Trauma Center is perhaps one of the most significant assets any region can have. I came here from a Level 1 Trauma Center that was about twice the size of the University Health. We had 852 beds, and the Trauma Center cascaded a lot of services and a lot of volumes around that trauma center. We are experiencing also record-setting surgeries at our hospital, 27,000 surgeries through 26 ORs at the hospital. And then the births, as you see it there, slightly north of 2,000 births. I would like to stand here and tell you that all those births are healthy births. But I can't, because I think we lead the nation in a lot of things we probably shouldn't lead the nation in. And certainly low birth weights are one of those variables that we are genuinely concerned about. We have to do collectively better on the wellness and the prevention side of health. A lot of tobacco use, a lot of drug abuse, a lot of alcohol abuse as well contributes to the low birth weight. And so one of the programs that we'll roll out will tackle just that, some wellness and prevention programs. And I'll speak a little bit about that later. You can't push that volume through an institution without really taking a look at making sure you have a good pulse on quality. And so once a quarter, we do a quality check and report that out to the governing board. And as you can see there, the environmental care, that's the area in which all health care is provided. We're at 96%. We have an opportunity for improvement there, and we're working hard to squeeze that to 100. But you can see the rest that we're hitting pretty high marks on as relates to life safety, emergency management in and of itself, and infection control. We're doing really well with the checks and balances that we have in place at the hospital. Our impact on the community, really, you see a number of things that defines that. First, we had a significant increase in our overall patient volumes, and you saw from the previous slides. That second bullet point is really, really significant in that when I first came to the organization, we would have reroutes. We would divert ambulances away from the emergency room because of the capacity. We put together a fairly significant efficiency model that allowed us to address that, because each day or each hour we are on reroute, we actually do a disservice to the community. And so we had a zero tolerance set. And I can tell you right now that we have the fewest ER reroutes in the Region 7 as well. And we remain open close to 98%, if not 99% of the time. Now, that's a lot of volume that we have to manage as a community hospital, but we're able to manage that quite well by focusing on efficiencies and the throughputs of the organization. You'll see a number of bullet points that talks about the first this, the only that. That's what we have evolved to here at the hospital. The Gamma Knife, which is a fairly aggressive cancer treatment program there. We have the only Gamma Knife in the region, in North Louisiana. And we have a very strong partnership with the School of Medicine, where we're continuing to recruit highly specialized physicians in this space so we can make sure that we have the human capital to address the needs that we have in front of the community. We're the only cochlear implant program to restore hearing, very aggressive program, highly specialized as well. And we have the region's only cystic fibrosis center as well. The area also is highly conducive to strokes. And so reading the community and measuring the impact that these conditions have in the community, we are seeking certification for a primary stroke center. And I think that is really important for this community to have. It will be the first of its kind in North Louisiana. And we're moving fairly aggressively to get that certification under our belt. The next item is the health and wellness program I spoke about. I saw Bishop Brandon here earlier. One of the things that we're doing, I'm really proud of the work that we're doing with our congregations. You know, I say that you know, a lot of community members go to churches for spiritual and emotional healing, and they come to the hospitals for physical healing. And so the best partnership to put together in a community is where people come together for physical healing, emotional healing, spiritual healing. So we've launched a fairly aggressive wellness program whereby we have our physicians into the churches speaking to congregations about the health needs that they perceive as of interest to them. So that's a well thought out, well thought through program that we believe will have great benefits down the line to help us get in front of some of the wellness and prevention things that we need to do. In order to receive the volumes as we have in the emergency room, we have to focus on our improvements. And the two things that we really focus on there is to, when we say we want to start a case, we start a case, and the case starts on time. So a first case on time start is there. The second variable that we put in place there was the turnaround time. In order to manage that much volume through an operating room, you have to be able to go in, turn the room, and prepare the room for the next case. We set that metric at 30 minutes. We're under that metric now. We can turn a room now in less than 30 minutes, and that's pretty good given the volumes that we are experiencing there. The retail pharmacy side is another benefit for the patient. When the patient leaves our hospital, they're able to walk right downstairs in one of two pharmacies and receive their prescriptions prior to leaving the hospital. I can tell you that's not the case in many hospitals. It wasn't the case at my hospital. When the patient left the hospital, we had to use a commercial pharmacy in the community. But we have two pharmacies that we've opened up to help the patients have their pharmacies before they leave. And I think you know that we've opened our first outpatient urgent care center off of Southern Loop. That's the first step in the direction. All health care does not have to take place in the hospital. Our goal is to look at the landscape and determine where else we have opportunities to develop services. We had that one available to us as a turnkey ready to go, and we stepped right in and we opened that up fairly well. You see our educational partners there. There are many others. These are organizations we have clinical affiliations with, and that reach continues to grow as we move forward. I would invite you to not just take my word for it and hear this presentation, but we've captured now some of the patients' testimonies on the website. We have a website that's listed there at the bottom. Take a look at that website and hear what the patients are saying. We have moved the needle quite a bit in the care offerings that we have at University Health, and we continue to invite those individuals to come around and give us that feedback. We seek that feedback, and we're open to that as well. Finally, I'll submit that at University Health Biomedical Research Foundation, we are a vital community asset, and it's an important asset that we have to circle around to make sure that we retain that asset here in this domain in its current status. And any budget cuts that the lawmakers are considering, has to be met with a challenge. If I was in front of the State Senate Finance Committee, I'd make the same comments that an effect and a cut to our hospital has a number of effects. The first one is that we have to take a hard look at the delivery of services to our community. We also will take a look at the impact it will have on the economy, particularly around the businesses throughout the region, and finally a reduction in our services will be driven by some of the things that the lawmakers are considering right now. My sole responsibility here is to stand in front of you and to commit to you that we're putting together the highest and best health system that we're capable of doing, and we want to make sure that this community enjoys that asset that sits there. That's your hospital. It's your public purpose that we're carrying out. My responsibility is to carry that out, and I trust that you hold me accountable to doing just that. I will close by, if I can answer any questions, I will say that my colleagues can answer the tougher questions. And if you could be so kind to give me the easier questions. But, Mr. Chairman, I'll answer any questions if I may.
Mr. Williams, I want to congratulate you on your job and this outstanding presentation you just offered us. Before I give any further remarks, any councilman have any?
I just have one request for Mr. Williams. Do you think you could send me that PowerPoint in an email to
Absolutely.
my city council address? I'd like to have that as a reference, or at least a talking point when people ask questions about it, because
Absolutely.
there's some very clear data points that we can use a lot of times when we are asked questions about it. So I would appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Flory?
Mr. Williams, I just want to compliment the presentation. But I want you to know the opening of the new urgent care centers in South Caddo and North Bossier has been absolutely well received. And I'm looking forward one day that you come back and tell us that you've added additional care
Please do.
centers.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Any other councilman?
Well, I'll say certainly having the property in my district, it's obviously a huge center of our local economy. I mean, we have so many people who work there, who receive care there, who study next door with the medical school, and it's such an important part of our local landscape, and certainly it is very appreciated to have updated presentation about what's going on there. Obviously, it's a fast-moving world. There's a lot that goes on. We all face a lot of challenges and changes, and healthcare is one of those industries most affected by a lot of that.
That's
and
correct.
So it's difficult for people to sometimes keep up and understand. I think, as Oliver asked for that presentation, that's something that would benefit all of us, because we do get a lot of questions from time to time, and it's really helpful to have that kind of information on hand. I'll say, as my personal experience at the hospital comes mostly in that I do notary work for a adoption agency, so I go there from time to time for women who are giving up children for adoption, and certainly I have seen improvements in the hospital. I have seen good experiences for people who are in a time where they need good help. So I've noticed some good things, and certainly want to encourage that to continue, and certainly appreciate y'all reaching out, and look forward to cooperating in anything we can do going forward to ensure the viability and future of the system.
Thank you, sir.
Let me just once again say I appreciate you coming down and offering us this wonderful presentation. We're sensitive to what's going on in Baton Rouge as you are. Trust and pray that the cuts doesn't affect healthcare. I mean, healthcare is, I mean, the quality of life starts with a healthy body. We can't, being in healthcare myself, we can't take any more hits.
That's correct.
As it relates to jeopardizing the quality of health care we can provide our citizens here.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to echo Councilman Jefferson. We don't have no money, but if we can do anything else to help you, just let us know.
Yes, sir. We appreciate the support, and tough roads ahead, and I think some tough decisions have to be made, but I suspect that having a safety net hospital in your backyard is critical, and I think we have to put forth every effort to send a loud signal that it's a critical asset that needs to be protected.
Let me ask you one other question, I'm sorry. In regards to the med school, I mean, that's vital to your success, is that correct? You feel comfortable that we can maintain that?
We do. I do. I think when you look at the halls and corridors of the hospital and the med school on the campus, the relationships are really strong. And I think that I'm very comfortable putting the med school in my presentation and vice versa. I think any cut to the school is an impact to us, and a cut to us is an impact to the school. We purchase a significant amount of services from the med school. So we really need that med school to be there on our behalf. And I think if we had to restrict, we have to look at all areas of the operations as with the med school. But I think the med school needs to be maintained in its current status there on the campus. And we have that dialogue on the campus quite often. So.
Great. Okay, well, thank you again. Any other comments?
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, you had
Yes, sir. I just want to also say thank you to Mr. Williams for presenting to us today. I think it is so important that our publics really know what's happening at the University Health Hospital and the great services that you provide. So thank you so much for providing that to us today.
Thank you.
Thank you again, sir.
Thank you.
Any other councilman has any recognitions or comments?
I do. I'd like to acknowledge the passing of General Hondo Campbell. Truly great American. For those that didn't get the chance to know him, I mean, his bio is, you know, you can't get, it's enough said in there, and you can't say enough good things about it. He, you know, really being the last guy on active duty to serve in Vietnam is amazing, and a career that's been 40 plus years in the military, that's just hard to imagine, particularly in today's day and age. You know, we have a long history in Louisiana of general officers that have made our nation very proud. Amazingly, he is the only four-star general to ever graduate from LSU. That's amazing. We've had two commandants of the Marine Corps. Neither one of them were LSU grads. So he is, you know, obviously his career took him away from Louisiana a lot, but he was all the way till the end a true Louisianian. And, you know, his contribution to both our community and our nation will be sorely missed. So sad day, but great American.
Thank you, Councilman, for those observations in regarding the distinguished general. We certainly share your sentiments on his contributions as well as his legacy to this country. Okay. Any other councilman has any remarks or recognitions? If not, Madam Mayor, you have any?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and council members. We have 2 or 3 announcements, and then we have a couple of small presentations. Many city employees are still grieving the loss of one of our own, Mr. G. Ray Evans. I think you mentioned him on yesterday. He was a 27-year employee of the city of Shreveport. I want to thank those who participated last Friday in the Heart Walk in his honor. I ask that you all continue to keep his family, his wife, Mrs. Janice Evans, and her family in your thoughts and prayers. She also is a member of our
employee workforce. She works for the Community Development Department, but we just want to say to you today that we are still praying for that family. I'd like to now have Fire Chief Scott Warburton, if you'll come up at this time with recognition of two very special people in our community.
Good afternoon. Mayor Tyler, Steele Crawford, honorable council members. As fire chief, one of the things I enjoy most doing is recognizing those citizens who go above and beyond to help save another citizen. These selfless acts of heroism represent the mission of the fire service and the greatest act of love and humility in laying down one's life for a friend. Today we get the privilege to honor two of our citizens. The first citizen is Travion Cooper. I'm going to ask him to step up. Bring your family too, if you'd like to.
Don't be shy.
Come on up. Don't be shy. This is your time. I'm gonna share with you the words of Engine 11 B Ship that responded to a call where Travion Cooper, as a bystander, assisted them. On December 14, 2015, Engine 11 and Medic 5 were dispatched to a motor vehicle crash with injuries, possibly someone trapped and not breathing, at Knight Street and Shreveport-Barstow Highway. Upon arrival, there was a female driver of one of the vehicles that was unconscious and not breathing. There were numerous bystanders at the scene, and among them was a pedestrian that had witnessed the incident. His name is Travion Cooper. He was willing to assist in any way possible. From the instant Engine 11 arrived, the scene escalated from a routine MVC to chaotic circumstances due to rush hour traffic and a three-person engine company attempting to work a code at a busy intersection. Travion helped remove the patient from the vehicle so the crew could start CPR. After the patient was removed and placed in a location safe from the crash, the crew began CPR and setting up the automated external defibrillator. Travion was instructed to remove the bag valve mask, hook it into the oxygen bottle, and turn the bottle on. Travion assisted with chest compressions while the crew began other advanced life-saving procedures. During the next 4 to 6 minutes, while Medic 5 responded, Travion performed chest compressions, assessed needed equipment, provided ventilations, and assisted us in any way necessary. The patient regained a pulse when Medic 5 arrived and had a blood pressure on arrival at University Medical Center. N11 crew had not witnessed this from a citizen in the past. Travion, though not trained, displayed poise and competence in every task performed. This bold, confident, and selfless act is something that moved each one of us emotionally after the incident. Travion Cooper had no personal relationship to the patient, and he lacked formal training as a medical responder. We believe Travion displayed bravery in those brief minutes that enhanced the Shreveport Fire Department's life-saving capabilities on that evening, and we feel he needs to be recognized for his actions. So in recognition of his actions, we want to present to him today the Citizen Life Saving Award, which says, Shreveport Fire Department presents Citizen Life Saving Award to Travion Cooper for your selfless and courageous act in assisting the Shreveport Fire Department on scene during a motor vehicle crash with injuries. You performed chest compressions, assessed needed equipment, provided ventilations, and assisted in any way necessary. Your heroic efforts most assuredly prevented a death from occurring at this incident. Presented on this day, February 23, 2016, by Fire Chief Edwin Scott Warburton. Present him with our SFD Challenge coin, which is commemorated with our shield on one side and the remembrance of 9/11 and the World Trade Center. So we want to present that to him also. I would also like to recognize Ms. Sherry Pardue.
Can I?
Yes, sir.
You want to wait till the end? I want to.
Yes, sir. If you don't mind, I'm going to do one thing.
Okay.
I'd like to recognize Ms. Sherry Pardue, if she would. Ms. Sherry Pardue was the victim in the accident that Travion assisted Engine 11's crew with, and today she is alive because of his actions in our crew.
Wow.
Ain't gonna be too long. I just thank God that I was able to be a help to her and you know, and I just thank God. I saved a life, and it was a scary, you know, it was scary for me. I've never seen it, and you know, if that was my mom there, I want somebody to do the same thing. And you know, if we could just get each other, you know, more people in the community just to lean a helping hand to help the next person, and not just, you know, turn your cold shirt on them, you know. Well, you know, it'll be a better place for everyone. And I just thank everybody, and thank you for.
No, I wanted, let me just, some people say, oh, you know, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, but you're in the right place at the right time. I want to thank you for your instinct, for your heroism as you saw a need and you reacted instantaneously to that need. And because of that, we have somebody who was able to be with us today. And I just want to say thank you for your compassion to fellow man and woman. And you deserve this recognition. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The second citizen is Miss Kimberly Diane McKinney. Miss McKinney, if you'll step up. On the morning of February 7, 2016, Shreveport Fire Department was called to Lakeshore Drive, where we found a male 60-year-old patient laying on the bank of the lake with CPR in progress. It was revealed by bystanders later that Miss Kimberly Diane McKinney was flagged down by a witness that saw the patient fall from his P-row into the water near the bridge. Without hesitation, Miss McKinney stopped her vehicle and rendered aid by diving into the cold water, swimming out to the patient, and was able to bring him back to the shore, where she began CPR until SFD arrived on scene. Upon our arrival, patient's advanced life-saving treatment began, and the patient did regain a pulse. Ms. McKinney's selfless heroic act most definitely aided in this patient regaining a pulse that day, and her early CPR increased the potential of advanced life-saving techniques to start his heart beating again. In recognition of that, we'd like to extend the Outstanding Citizen Performance Award to Ms. Kimberly McKinney for your selfless and courageous act in diving into a lake to assist a 60-year-old man who had fallen out of his boat with no regard for your own safety. You performed CPR until the Shreveport Fire Department arrived on scene. Presented on this date, February 23, 2016, by Fire Chief Edwin Scott. We're also presenting her with our Fire Department Challenge Medallion also. Council members, anything?
Ms. McKinney, impressed, and thank God for you and your act of love and kindness for a fellow man. These are the kind of stories we love to hear.
Amen.
And you jumped in the cold water, huh? Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you, staff, for coming over.
Okay. We have just one or two other things.
Yeah, continue, please.
Yes, sir. Okay.
You have trouble topping those two.
I
Right?
know.
I don't know what we got next, but
I
you got
know.
something better than that.
I tell you, I'm so touched by, what people do every day in our community. We have so many fine examples of people who love each other despite race, color, religious beliefs, and I think that's what makes a great community. So I'm just touched. So now we'll go to the other announcements. That's a hard act to follow. Next week, the Shreveport Mayor's Women's Commission will recognize National Women's History Month, kicking the week off with a breakfast on Tuesday, March 1st. The group will hold events that focus on issues pertinent to women. The week will culminate with the 5th annual Cora M. Allen Lunch on Friday, March 4th, and a Young Women's Leadership Summit on Saturday, March 5th. Please try to attend those events if your schedules will allow. Next, we continue to serve our citizens with numerous events. Since we met last, the city has supported several events, including Black History programs at several community centers, Princess Park, Hattie Perry, A.B. Palmer, Bilberry Park, Sunset Acres, Airport Park, Corby's, and Valencia. Also, we held Valentine's Day events at Valencia, Airport Park, Sunset Acres, and Bill Cockerill. Last weekend was the 28th annual MLK Junior Basketball Tournament at various gyms sites throughout Shreveport. Also, at Riverview Hall, we had the Shreveport Opera and the Gun Show. Now, at this time, I'd like to have Mrs. Autumn Parmenter, one of our assistant city engineers, to come forward and give you all a brief update on Phase 1 of the consent decree portion of the project in the Cedar Grove Basin. Ms. Parmenter and Mrs. Featherston.
Very tough act to follow.
Okay.
All right, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the chairman, members of the council, Mayor Tyler, as well as Mr. Crawford, for allowing me the, yes, please, for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you today, to give you an update on the Phase 1 of the consent decree, where we're at and where we're headed. You're all receiving packets. In the packets, you'll see a couple exhibits, and I'll go through these with some more information as we go out through the presentation. All right, as you're all aware, the city is currently under a consent decree with the Department of Justice and Environmental Protection Agency. This consent decree requires the city to fully assess and remediate deficiencies within our existing aging sewer infrastructure. We have a 12-year timeline, with the majority of the design and construction to occur within the first 10 years. This work is going to be broken into 5 phases so we can assess the entire city. The general recipe for each phase is to inspect, identify projects, submit those to EPA for their review, and then we move forward with design and construction for each. We do have an aggressive schedule to maintain consent decree compliance. Phase 1 work is in the Cedar Grove Basin and surrounding neighborhoods, and as this is the oldest sewer infrastructure in our city. So what's new? In early 2015, we completed the assessment for Phase 1 work. From this data, we identified 55 projects needed to replace, repair, and rehabilitate our sewer lines. Most of these projects are at or near final completion, final design, excuse me. The first of these projects advertised to solicit construction bids in December, and the first of these projects is scheduled to begin construction in mid-March, excuse me. And per the consent decree, we are required to be complete with construction in Phase 1 by November of 2017. In your packets, you'll see this map of the Phase 1 construction. This outer boundary is the Cedar Grove Basin. The inside lines delineate the 55 projects that I mentioned to you earlier. And for your frame of reference, this is I-20, this is Interstate 49, Jewella, and 70th Street running west to east. And as you'll notice, a majority of this work is in Council District F. However, all of your council districts will be impacted to some degree by this work. So what can you expect? At times, workers will need access to private property. This may include surveyors, inspectors, or project managers. All of these folks will be wearing this vest that you see on the screen. It's a green safety vest bearing the Shreveport, Clean Water Shreveport logo on the back. When we need to access private property, we will be communicating to the residents with rack cards and door hangers that you also see in your packet. We're also requiring our contractors to badge their crews, and a template of these badges is available in your packet as well, and they will also be bearing the Clean Water Shreveport logo. If you have any questions whether or not somebody is authorized to be at or near your property, everybody should be clearly identifiable if they're associated with the program. But if you have any questions, we do have a number for you to call, and at no time should anybody be accessing your homes. The number for the program is 673-6375, and you can also call with general questions. We've also created a website. It's cleanwatershreveport.com. It's also available at .org and and can also be accessed through the city's main website. Here we will keep up-to-date information on the program and the consent decree, as well as the public repository. There's information on there on how to get involved, whether you're a resident and just wanting to know when we're going to be in your area, or if you're looking for potential business opportunities. We'll also keep a current list of projects with estimates. And finally, in the concentric efforts, we do have an ongoing community outreach. We've contacted some of the neighborhood associations, and you might be aware of that. And we look at this as a public outreach to educate the public about what's going on and create a forum to allow for questions and answers. A lot of residents just want to know how this is going to impact them. These are the ones that we currently have scheduled to give presentations similar to this. We'll be at Brookdale Assisted Living Facility tonight, Paradise Baptist Church on Thursday, Lake Bethlehem Baptist Church on Monday, and Cedar Grove Library, and I'm sorry, I apologize, this slide is incorrect. It should be from 4:30 to 6 on March 10th. So if you are interested in having us come speak to any of your groups, we'd be happy to make ourselves available. And again, you can call the program phone number at 673-630-75, and we'll set that up. And I'll take any questions at this time.
The clean water is linked to the Shreveport website?
Yes, sir. It's the city's website. The homepage, if you go under department tabs, it's its own department tab.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Just want to encourage the citizens in my district and surrounding districts to try to make it to one of those public meetings. I know I'll certainly be there at the one on the 25th at Paradise Baptist Church. The south end of District B abuts District F, but also is very close to parts of C and D that all have projects, in the basin. So you don't have to be one of my constituents to get a benefit out of this meeting. It's going to be the whole region around there. And there's a lot of projects coming. This is great because it is, a huge, tremendous investment in repairing the infrastructure in our city and providing good quality infrastructure for the inner core of our city. But one of the unfortunate things about sort of disinvestment over time or a lack of maintenance over time is people in many of these neighborhoods aren't used to seeing this kind of construction in their neighborhood. There's going to be a lot of it. And so we want to communicate that early and up front, and we want to make sure people know what to expect and how to communicate any questions or issues that they may be having. So we certainly appreciate the efforts. It has been a long process and fun to be a part of it in various ways over the years. And I am really looking forward to the construction phase beginning. Y'all have done a really good job of staying on top of this. And just want to make sure that everybody knows how to come out and get questions. So.
Absolutely.
Good.
And if I could piggyback, I just want to say that first I want to thank Autumn for the presentation today. We want to give you just kind of a brief update of where we're going.
Yes.
But as Councilman Efferson has indicated, there will be a lot of work going on, and we have to do the work. We are under consent decree, but we wanted to start in the place where we had the oldest and the greatest need for this kind of work. It's going to be a lot of digging, but I can tell you once it's over, people are going to be excited about the new infrastructure. But we are communicating, we think, very well. We will continue that communication. We have someone who's working with us that I have the most confidence in, and that's Miss Judy Williams, who's working with our public relations part of it. And we have already been in contact with those people in that community to let them know what's going on, who to call, what to look for, and that kind of thing. But it is something that we are committed to getting done. We must meet that next benchmark by November of next year. So that we don't get penalized by the EPA, for not meeting it. But we're going to be working diligently with those neighbors and those people in this community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Barbara, and thank you, Autumn, for that wonderful report.
Thank you, Mr.
Makes us
Secretary.
feel comfortable that we moving forward there.
That's right.
And we trust that we will get periodic progress reports as work progresses.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other communications, Mayor?
Oh, no, sir. Thank you so much. Those are the communications we have for today.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we're gonna move forward with other reports. Anybody have any questions for property standards? Mr. Green is here. Any property standards? Mr. Green, thank you. We okay.
Thanks, Dan.
Master plan report, Mr. Sweeney, are you available?
All right, well, thank you. The MPC Master Plan Subcommittee had a meeting on February the 18th, and at that meeting, we elected officers, and in which case, Jeff Everson was elected as the new chair for 2016.
Great.
Typically, what happens is the chairmanship kind of rotates between the parish commission and the city council, and this year, it was the city council's turn, so. The next item that we discussed was about the development of a master plan goals summary. And what we're trying to talk about there is trying to develop a document where we could figure out exactly who is responsible for the various components of the master plan that was approved back in 2010, to see what has been accomplished to date and what remains to be done. And so we're going to do what I call kind of an executive summary that will give us kind of a matrix that will show us exactly where we are, what needs to be done, and who's involved, because the master plan implementation is a multifaceted thing that involves not only the city, but the parish, civic organizations, independent groups. It is a true team effort to make it a reality, because that way we can leverage our resources and accomplish a whole lot more when we work together. So we hope to have that report ready here in the next few weeks, and we'll be presenting that, and so that people get a better perspective on what progress has been made. The other thing that we talked about was the progress on the UDC. Of course, I've elaborated on that on many times with you guys. We talked about the 10 months of public outreach we've been doing since the release of the first draft back in May of 2015, the subsequent series of open houses, the 2 neighborhood association public forums back in August, and then going forward to December when we released the second draft of the UDC, and also the proposed zoning maps that came along with the second draft. Those maps have been circulated as a display. You're aware well the one that's here in the lobby that remains all the time. We have another one that kind of goes on a circuit and rotates to different locations. And this week, I'm proud to say that it is being set up and has been set up at the West Shreveport Library on Pines Road. That was a request by Councilman Jerry Bowman that it be extended another week to allow residents in that area to get a chance to have comments and input on the proposed mapping. Going forward, we talked about several key issues. We talked about how we had an ongoing process of working with the stakeholder groups, the various interested organizations and groups, and trying to reach out to them to find resolution to differences and to come up with solutions that will be good for the UDC. We touched on a variety of different topics, which included updated uses, districts, and definitions, manufactured housing, shelter housing and group homes, livestock, billboards, as well as tree trimming by public utilities. And all of those topics were discussed at some length during that meeting, with some follow-up efforts that will be made over the course of the next several weeks. Then we also talked about the fact that one of the things that we felt would be good for everyone to get a copy of, and would be of value, would be a listing of all of the comments that have been made on the UDC over the last several months, kind of just a raw calculation of all the things that have been said by the various members of the public, and to show some of the responses that we've done to those requests throughout this process. So we're going to try to compile that as well. We also talked about the approach we might could take as the next steps after this public outreach effort has ended, in which we will go to the next step of reaching out on the one-on-ones that I mentioned to you the last time I was here with all the elected officials. We also talked about the way to come up with a process that we felt like would do that perhaps first, and then follow up with some type of a reception with both the parish and city council together in one meeting that we think would be valuable going forward. Another thing that was mentioned was the Citizens Advisory Group, or what was called CAG, which was heavily used back in when the development of the master plan was done in 2010. And there was some discussion about trying to revitalize that group to serve as a way to help us further with, not only with the UDC, but with other things that we're doing going forward with the implementation of the master plan. So we've got a lot of things we talked about. It was a very good session, a good meeting, and we will be meeting on a more regular basis so that we can make more progress on those issues, and that is my report for today.
Thank you, sir. Very, very good report. Any questions for Mr. Sweeney?
That was a good summary.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move forward. I was trying to see if there are any items for public hearing today, Mr. Clerk. I don't see it. None. Thank you. Is there any items to be added to the?
Yes, sir, we have 3 items to be added to the agenda.
They're currently trying to discuss a little bit about those items.
Okay.
So I don't want
We're
to
patient.
speak too quickly.
We're patient.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
I was asking, was there any items to be added to the agenda today?
There are 3 items to be added to the agenda. The first is ordinance 14A. It will replace ordinance 14. None of the numbers change in ordinance 14. It's basically a change in the wordsmanship and in the phrasing of the ordinance. The second ordinance, and what that ordinance does is it increases the federal funding and associated local match requirements for the 2015 and 2016 Federal Transportation Administration grants for the city of Shreveport. It requires a local match of $3,875, which will be taken from the Sportran operating budget. Ordinance 21 is a companion to ordinance number 14A. It is the other side of the coin, so to speak. And ordinance number 22 is a companion to ordinance number 12. Ordinance number 12 is it will increase, ordinance number 22 will increase the capital improvements budget to provide $45,000 for relocation of the automated surface observation system for the Shreveport downtown airport. It also reduces the state funding to $90,000 from the $120,000 originally budgeted, for a total budget of $135,000, I believe. So these are the 3 items that can be added to the agenda.
Thank you, sir. What I'm going to do is take them one by one. Is there anyone here, after hearing the clerk's report, would oppose adding ordinance 14A to the agenda? Is there anyone here who opposes? Is there anyone here who supports? Anyone here who supports? Okay. Is there anyone here who would oppose adding resolution 21, ordinance 21 to the agenda? Anyone here who oppose adding 21 to the agenda? Anyone here who would support adding 21 to the agenda? Thank you. Is there anyone here who opposes adding ordinance 22 to the agenda? Anyone here who opposes adding? Anyone here would like to speak to adding or opposing 22 to the agenda? Okay. All right. I will take a motion.
I'll make a motion.
To add to the agenda. There's a motion. Okay. All right. Moved by Councilman Fleury, seconded by Councilman Jenkins, that these items will be added to the agenda. Any discussion? If not, let us vote. The motion passes 6-0, 1 out of the chamber. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. As we move forward, public comments regarding items on the agenda. I have one, and that is for resolution number 10. Sammy Mears? Yeah, stay. Mr. Mears, your name and address and for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Sammy Mears, 1901 Centenary Boulevard, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71101. I'm glad to be back today. I have a very concerned heart for the people of Allendale, which is why I come back today after being out 2 weeks ago with this concerned heart. Now, I stood here a few weeks ago and I said a few things that I believed in my heart really needed to be said. At the time, there might have been some things that I was not aware of, that I didn't understand. And so therefore, because of that situation, I now know what I didn't know at the time. I-49 is the one who's being decided by the Department of Transportation and not the City Council. So that's where I probably made my mistake. Hope you'll understand. The fact of the matter is that I really hope that the DOTD will reconsider any thoughts before they go through with wanting to run I-49 through Allendale, because I feel like the people would end up putting out of their homes, and this really does have me very concerned. I wouldn't want them to end up left out in the cold. If it doesn't mean anything to the DOTD, it will to the people of Allendale and to me, even though I'm not one of the people who lives out there. And I just wanted to let that be known. These people out there have spent years in their homes. They cook, clean, yard work, tax pay, bill pay, just like other people. And they love their homes. I just don't think the DOTD would be doing them right if they just got put out and didn't have anywhere to go. And maybe you don't even agree with what I'm saying, or if they were here, I don't know if you'd agree with them or not, but they would have the right to be heard on what they'd have to say, as well as I feel like I need to be heard on what I wanted to say about this. Because if they're not heard, and if I'm not heard, they could get pretty upset about this, and they might even try to get a petition going, and if that petition were to go into a courtroom where it's people versus the state, that court case could get very ugly, and it would not be a pretty sight. And if that were to happen, I might have a lot of bad thoughts that I wouldn't want to have. So I just hope that they'll make second thoughts before they decide that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mears, and let me just repeat and echo your statement earlier that this council has no real impact on the decision that will be made regarding I-49 through the city. I trust you attended some of the public hearings. There was a process that went on as it relates to input from citizens. Every citizen had opportunity to attend and report their comments to the proper agencies regarding their position on this project. So that time has elapsed, and all comments now is pretty much, mute unless you can submit them and maybe they will somehow consider them, but that process has took its course, okay? But thank you for your comments. All right. Let's move forward. Mr. Clerk, do we have anyone up for confirmation?
Mr. Chairman, the mayor has appointed and submitted to the council for confirmation the following persons for the following positions. The chief building official, Mr. Gary Norman, for division manager, athletics, SPAR, Mr. C. Gerard Jones.
Okay.
I think Mr. Jones is here.
Chair.
I'm sorry?
Can you stand up again, Mr. Jones? Is Mr. Norman here? Please stand up.
Still here. Thank you, Mayor, and we had a chance to visit with these gentlemen a couple of weeks ago. Any additional questions for either one? Okay. It has been moved by Councilman Flory and seconded by
Councilman
Corbin.
And second by me.
Okay, moved by Councilman Corbin and seconded by Councilman Flory that these two gentlemen will be confirmed in their positions that have been presented. Are there any discussion? If not, let's vote, please. That motion passes 6-0. One is absent. Thank you, gentlemen, for
Congratulations.
your service. Okay, Mr. Clerk, I see no items to be introduced.
We have we have a set of items for the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman. There are resolutions. Would you like?
Please continue.
There are resolutions number 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, and 36. They're on your consent agenda, and a motion to adopt the consent agenda would be in order.
So moved. Moved by Councilman Jefferson, seconded by Councilman Flory, that this consent agenda will be adopted. Is there any discussion? Please vote. One missing.
Mr. Bowles?
Thank you. That motion to adopt the consent agenda passes 6-0, one absent today. Please continue, sir.
We are now to resolutions on second reading and final passage. The first is Resolution 10 concerning Interstate 49. That was previously postponed until March the 8th. I don't think any further action would be necessary unless you want to take it up today.
No, we'll let it stay tabled. Stay
To March 8th.
to March 8th.
Resolution number 29 authorizes the mayor to execute telecommunications franchise agreement and otherwise provides with respect thereto.
Moved by Councilman Jefferson.
Okay.
Seconded by Councilman Jenkins. That resolution.
I think Corbin may have seconded that first.
Oh, did
Just
it?
for the record.
For the record,
Yeah.
I take your motion to second that. Councilman Corbin seconded the motion that that resolution 29 be approved. Any discussion? Please vote.
The next is
That
resolution.
passes. I'm sorry. 6-0, one out of the chamber. Please continue.
Resolution 30, it authorizes the mayor to execute agreements with various entities relative to supplemental payments for ambulance services provided to Medicaid patients. There is one amendment. An explanation of the amendment is one of the proposed agreements was omitted from the resolution as introduced. This agreement is with the Louisiana Ambulance Alliance, Inc. It is similar to the agreement executed under the earlier program in which the LAA will assist the ambulance providers in determining the amount of intergovernmental transfers and evaluating whether the payments are equitable.
I move for the amendment adoption.
Second.
Moved by the chair, seconded by Councilman Flory, that we would approve the amendment. Are there any questions? If not, please vote. That motion passes 5-0, out of the chamber. Now we'll move that the
Resolution.
Resolution 30 would be approved with the amendment.
Second.
Second by Councilman Corbin. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes 5-0, two out of the chamber.
Mr. Chairman, there are no introduction of resolutions. We're now in the introduction of ordinances. Before I read those, we would ask that ordinance number 14 would be removed from the agenda. If you will recall that you added 14A.
I move that our ordinance 14 would be removed from the agenda and replaced with 14A. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Flory. Then discussion. Please vote. Motion passes 5-0, two out of the chamber.
The ordinances to be introduced are as follows. Ordinance 13 amends the 2016 general fund budget. Ordinance 15 amends the 2016 budget for the street special revenue fund. Ordinance number 16 amends the 2016 capital improvements budget. This is a companion to ordinance 15. Ordinance 17 is a zoning matter. Case number C-108-15, it amends Chapter 106 of the Code of Ordinances by rezoning property located on the east side of Spring Street, Service Road, 112 feet north of Uri Drive, and it's changed from B3 to I1 Light Industry District with site plan approval and use approval. Ordinance number 18 is a zoning case C number C-2-16. It rezones property located in the northwest corner of Forbing Road and East Florinor Lucas Road, and it changes the zoning from R1D Urban One Family Residence District to B2 Neighborhood Business District with site plan and planned building group approval. Next is ordinance 19. It's a zoning matter C-5-16. It rezones property located on the northeast corner of Hearn Avenue and Quinton Street, 43 feet west of Hearn Avenue, changing the zoning from B2 Neighborhood Business District to R2 Suburban Multifamily Residence District with site plan approval. The next is ordinance 20. It's a zoning matter. It's case number C-9-16. It rezones property located on the east and west side of Sand Beach Boulevard, 950 feet south of East 70th Street. It changes the zoning from B1 Buffer Business District and B3 Community Business District to R3 Urban Multifamily Residence District with site plan and use approval. There were 3 ordinances that were added to the agenda, and they should be introduced. First is ordinance 14A. It amends the 2016 capital improvements budget. Ordinance 21, an ordinance amending the 2016 budget funding contractual services provided to Sport Train by Metro Management Associates, Inc. And ordinance 22 amends the 2016 capital improvements budget.
Okay.
So moved for introduction.
Move for introduction by Councilman Jefferson, seconded by Councilman Jenkins. Are there discussion regarding introduction? If not, please vote. Votes again.
Come on.
Thank you. That motion passes 6-0. One is absent today. Please continue, sir.
We're now into ordinances on second reading and final passage. Ordinance number 7 amends the 2016 Airport Enterprise Fund budget. It appropriates $45,000. This is a companion to the other one, isn't it, Mr. Crawford?
It is.
Do you want to postpone this one and bring them up together, or do you want to?
We can. Move to postpone till the following meeting.
Moved by Councilman Everson, seconded by Councilman Bowman, that we will postpone this until the 8th. Are there any discussion?
Which one is it?
Please vote. Move it for postpone passes 6-0. One is absent.
Ordinance number 8 amends the 2016 capital improvements budget.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Everson, seconded by Councilman Flory. Adoption. Any discussion? If not, please vote. Ordinance 8 is approved. Please continue.
Ordinance 10 closes and abandons alleys between the 1600 block of Clay Street and Alston Street in Cutliff's subdivision in section 35.
Also moved.
Township 18, Noel Branch.
Moved by the chair, seconded by Councilman Everson for adoption. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes 6-0. One is absent. Please.
Ordinance 11 closes and abandons a portion of Sand Beach Boulevard between 70th Street and Ferns Avenue.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilman Corbin, seconded by Councilman Everson for approval. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes 6-0. One is absent.
Ordinance 12 amends the 2016 capital improvements budget appropriating the funds authorized therein and otherwise providing with respect thereto. This is for the C.C. Antoine Park and Heritage Place.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Everson. Second by Councilman Bowman. Any discussion on this motion? If not, please vote. Ordinance 12 passes 6-0. One is absent.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Clerk, just going back on Ordinance 7 and the companion that was introduced at the beginning of the meeting as an amendment to Ordinance 8, that how I understood it was going to be read? Because if that's the case, we prefer that those both be adopted at this meeting, as they'll both be on second reading.
I think it was supposed to be an amendment to ordinance 7.
I think that ordinance 7 was the airport enterprise fund budget. The companion was a capital improvements budget companion to 7, and I think that was going to be an amendment to the capital improvements ordinance 8, so they could both be adopted at this meeting.
I don't think they were drafted that way.
Okay, that was just my question.
We probably should have and could have, but
Okay.
they weren't drafted that way.
That's fine.
We clear?
Yes, sir.
All right. As we move forward, are there a table legislation?
We have 2 items on the table. I don't believe that there is any, that they're going to be removed.
No, okay, thank you. Righty. Do we have any appeals, Mr. Clerk? Any appeals?
We have none.
None
We took
today.
them up yesterday. We have none today.
Are there any other reports from any officers, boards, or committees? Okay, none? We had a good report from the chair of the MPC. I appreciate that report. And that Councilman Jefferson is, and Councilman Flory is on that committee, so we're looking forward to great information coming back to us. Clerk's report.
Mr. Chairman, almost at the end of the meeting, we have an executive session that has been scheduled. And so that's on for today. Just
Okay, we will recess the executive session after we have our public comments. Okay, any additional communications? Madam Mayor, you have any
No,
additional?
sir, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Any additional communication from any council members? None? All righty. Okay, we have a few public comments. A few more. All righty. Okay, is this Michael Pearsoner? Yes, sir. Come down, please. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is Michael Purser. I live at 2154 Wayman Street. That's in Southern Hills, zip code 71118. Mr. Chairman, Madam Mayor, Chief Crawford, City Council, I thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here to complain about streets. I know it's something you hear every day, but just Friday, I witnessed on Linwood a motorcycle rider that hit a pothole that was repaired by the city that's gone from a pothole to more than a speed bump. He almost lost control and went into another lane, hit a car. Friday afternoon, about 4:45, I called the police department because a young lady and her 3 children were in a Lincoln Town car, and it's not unusual to hear a loud noise in front of Calvary because of the potholes and the bumps. But this young lady was in a Lincoln Town car. She had a blowout on her right front tire. Luckily, there was nobody beside her. She swerved over, hit the curb, went on down and got stopped. One of the coaches from Calvary and myself went over there to make sure everybody was okay, get the police department out there to stop traffic so they could get the tire changed. That road is not safe. It's not safe. All the way from Burt Coons to 3132 are past. The only reason I go that way is because I have to go that way. I have no other option to drop my child off at Calvary. Mount Zion's the same way. That intersection there is terrible, and I come to ask today, in addition to you come out and look at that, I'm asking for an increased police presence at that intersection because there's at least 5 to 6 cars run that red light every morning. The traffic there is incredible. And the school zones on Burt Coons at Kingston Road and the school zone there in the 9300 block of Linwood in front of Calvary. Mr. Flory's got us some help out there, and I believe Officer Montgomery, tall African-American motorcycle cop, I love him to death. I thank him every time I see him there. Those police officers that are there to direct traffic and assist people getting out of the school onto Linwood. I've seen them almost get hit 5, 6 times. It's just crazy. And the Burt Coons Industrial Speedway, police officers don't even want to come down there, try to write tickets because they're afraid of getting run over. I'm asking, would y'all come out and witness what's happening and see if you can get us a little relief out there? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The mayor has made some trips down to Linwood many times.
Yes,
and
sir.
she's aware.
Yeah, like that way.
I know
She's
she is.
working on a plan, and I will speak with Chief Shaw and them and traffic, see if what we can do there.
Thank you.
But
I'm sure she
for-
runs I-49 like I do because she don't
Yeah.
want to
Right.
tear her car up.
So we'll work on it and see what we can do. But
Thank
thank
you,
you
sir.
for coming and
Absolutely.
visiting.
And if I could just make one comment, because I go out that way every day myself, I live out there.
Yes.
I'm going to ask Chief, CAO Crawford, if he would tell, if he would say to this gentleman exactly what we plan to start doing next year. We know that, that street is hazardous and it's a problem. I know that because I drive that way every day. And the street's been like that for a long time. But we are making progress. And he can just tell me 1 minute or 2 minutes.
Yeah, one minute, just very quickly, and Mike is a firefighter, so we know each other very well, and that's my part of town too, and I've driven it for years, and I would even go further to say from Burt Coons all the way to 70th Street is in desperate need of repair. That's about a $15 to $20 million replacement all told.
Thank you.
But the mayor has dedicated, with the council's support this year, $3.4 million to start on the Linwood panel replacement, concrete panel replacement, which will start at Burt Coons, and we'll run that $3.4 million as far as it'll go. We believe it'll take us somewhere between Mount Zion and 31, 32, and then hopefully do another phase in 2017, and then finish it off all the way to 70th in 2018.
Great.
And let me just say, my employees can always call me if they, if they think that we can help in any way. That would be a good way to do it.
Yeah.
Instead of coming to council, just call me, because
Open
we
door
can tell
policy
you
with
what
the
we're
mayor.
doing. Okay?
The mayor has open door policy for her city employees, okay?
Let me join
If the chairman
Let me
would-
join in on the bandwagon as well. I live in that area as well.
That's
So,
District E.
I live in
Okay,
Southern
thank
Hills
you.
as well, and are well aware of all the problems we have out there with traffic and whatnot. Our traffic commander is in the chambers today and is taking copious notes, and we will address it as best we can. It's on a rotational list right now, but we'll get out there as many more times as we possibly can. But we're well aware of the situation out there, and we handle it as best as we can right now, and we'll try to increase it as best we can.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Appreciate
sir.
that. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Mr. Chairman.
You welcome.
Ma'am,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you for the excellent report from the CEO. And Linwood is a priority project, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, next is our, Ms. Ola Hart.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Laura Hart. I live in the Cedar Grove Neighborhood Associate in Cedar Grove area. My address is 6911 Bethany Street, Shreveport, 71106. I'm coming, and Mr. Hersey Jones is with me. I have a great concern about the new utility poles that have graced our community. And I say grace tongue-in-cheek. I'd really like for the council to come through Cedar Grove and look at our community, how it looks aesthetically, and I would like to have someone tell me if there is any health fallout. I've gone online and I've taken a look. There have been quite a few studies done about the health ramifications of electrical grids. What I understand from someone was that the city doesn't really have anything to do with this because they have given SWEPCO some kind of extensive contract, and kind of carte blanche that they don't have to, they can just do what they want to. Someone has to be responsible to the citizens. I understand it's not the city, but it was in somewhere in my thought that the city was responsible to the community and the citizens. So I had called the city and they responded and told me I needed to call SWEPCO or that I needed to call MPC, and nobody could tell me anything. Apparently, I was out of town, so Mr. Jones can tell you more about what SWEPCO had to say. But I think that if you came into our community and took a look at this new grid, that aesthetically it wouldn't be pleasing to you either. So I don't know what it is that I'm asking you to do other than be responsible to the citizens. Now, it's my understanding that they have carte blanche to do whatever they want to in the right-of-way. Now, that's a great word if citizens really know where the right-of-way is and what that really means to them. So I would like for the city to then tell me where the...
So move for additional time.
Without objection, you have another minute.
Okay, so where the right-of-way starts and where the right-of-way ends, how far in or out SWEPCO can go, how close together these huge posts can be, and what the voltage is that's going through this small community.
Okay,
make a comment?
Hold on a second. Are you speaking on the same subject? Okay, he's next. Let's hear him, and then we'll ask whatever question we need to ask.
Good afternoon. My name is Hershey Jones, Jr. I reside at 461 Kemper Street, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71106. I am chairperson of the Cedar Grove Neighborhood Association, known as CARE. You know, first I want to pick up on where Ms. Hart left off. But before I do that, let me take a few minutes to give a backdrop. I lived in that, moved back to Shreveport in 1988, I think it was. And from that time until a couple of years ago, lived in the Ellaby Estates and moved back to Cedar Grove about 2 years ago. And Ms. Hart lived in Portland, Oregon, and she moved back about, what, 10, 15 years? Something like that. We represent a wave of individuals who grew up in the Cedar Grove area, who moved off. I think Reverend Brown was here at the meeting before. Reverend Brown has lived in other areas, moved back. Others have moved in Timberline and moved back. So we represent a wave of residents who have decided rather than let family homes go to nothing, that we'll move back and occupy them. Of course, when we came back, Councilman Corbin, we came back with the same expectation of service that I got in Ellaby from my councilman, that I would get the same from the Ellaby in the city and Cedar Grove. So we are really trying to improve the neighborhood. We consider ourselves, Mayor, your silent partner on community involvement. We push for community involvement. Didn't know anything about the water thing, but I got 5 calls yesterday about letters from the city and about water contamination, and we try to encourage that, and we try to be responsive. So we are here to address this ambush as we consider it happening within the community. Now, I took some pictures. I tried to email them. I'm sure you've seen them. But a regular pole is, I guess, whatever it is, these are about 50 times larger, and they're about 2.5 times taller. SWEPCO said they're in the right-of-way, but there are 1 or 2 not in the right-of-way. At the corner of 78th and Line, it's in a private person's yard. I know because my uncle lives across the street. And they attempted to put it in his yard and told him about right-of-way, and Mr. Ponder Clinton knew better. And he said, oh no, that's not the right-of-way. Even if it is in the right-of-way, I can't park my tractor here if you're going to put that big old thing So they said, okay, so they went across the street. But they didn't just do that, so they still in a private yard, so we're thinking there should have been some communication, some public input. I can't go to someone else's private property and just put on anything I want. And I went to the MPC and they said, the zoning administrator, Mr. Clark, said, well, that's not we don't regulate city property on the right of way. It was kind of news to me because the right of way is really kind of private property carved out for the city. So we went to SWEPCO and they said, well, we got a franchise agreement.
Mr. Jones, your time has expired. Are you almost finished?
Just about.
Okay.
Okay.
One additional minute.
They said they have a franchise agreement and a right-of-way agreement, so pretty much they could do pretty much whatever they wanted. However, if you go down 78 from the 500 blocks, 400 block, 300 block, 200 block, there are about 8 to 10 additional poles, not as large as the one there. And so if you start at the power plant on right by Palmer Park and come to 78, there are about 5. So basically, you've just kind of transformed a neighborhood into an industrial zone. That's what it looks like. And for the people there, it cannot help but adversely affect their property values. And for the rest of us who don't live on 78, it's just awful to look at, and it's embarrassing to even comment about. Now, Cedar Grove is not the best looking neighborhood in the city yet. Mayor, I say yet. But that's our goal to get there. And this is just a step back, and we'd like to at least see the right-of-way agreement, the franchise agreement, or get some kind of response about why weren't there any notice. I'm assuming the council didn't know about it, otherwise we know our councilman would have told us about it, since we met with him 3 times in the last 3 or 4 months. But we would like to get some response as to what can we say or do about it.
Your time has expired.
Thank you.
I think there's a couple questions. Councilman Evans, do you have a question?
Oh, I was just gonna ask, I recently got a call about this, somebody was asking about it in a part of my district, which is not anywhere close to Cedar Grove. And I, forwarded the request to the SWEPCO people and didn't get a very clear response back other than they're working on a transmission project. I assume it is the same thing as what y'all are talking about, but I don't know that for sure. But it would be helpful to have some information about this. I mean, this, maybe they provided some information some years ago or something and it's not fresh in anyone's mind, but I mean, it did come as a surprise to me, certainly. So I empathize with the fact that it sounds like it came as a surprise to y'all as well. So does anybody else know more about it? Or?
It's those metal poles.
Great.
Yeah, I saw them putting
steel.
That's a transmission line, yeah.
Councilman Corbin.
The last time that, back in, I guess, January, that Mr. Crawford and I met with the CARE group, they brought up these poles. And since that time, I've had a conversation with 1 or 2 people at SWEPCO and asked them to go back and be sure where they put their poles. If a pole is not on a right-of-way, they talk to that property owner and work out whatever deal they need to work out. What I've been told is SWEPCO is currently upgrading a number of substations around the city. They've recently done the one on Florida Lucas. They just did the one near A.B. Palmer Park. And as part of that upgrade and modernizing equipment in the substation, they needed to put a line across I-49, and the only way to do that was the big poles to get clearance at I-49. Now, I'm speaking about on a subject that I know very little about, and we might want to have somebody from SWEPCO come in our next meeting and talk about that in a little more detail and with more authority. Certainly, if you want to see a copy of that franchise agreement, then the mayor's office can get you a copy of that franchise agreement.
Okay. I can just respond briefly.
Do they have another councilman who wants to speak?
I was just going to say, I know a little bit about right-of-ways and easements, and it's rare that it's legal for a group to not, to put it in private property without some type of designated document and register with the court. So, but I'm not an attorney. I'm going to make sure that that's clear. So I'm a little surprised that, that that's being done or not being tried to rectify in a timely manner. So,
can the administration give
Yes.
us any?
Well, I've asked our attorney if he would get with MPC and maybe with Mr. Westerman to find out, exactly. I know what Mr. Corbin knows. And, I was under the impression it was our right of way, and we do have an agreement with SWEPCO. And, we have these conversations often about, where they put things and how they trim trees, and, it's ongoing and that kind of things. But I can assure you the city didn't do it, but SWEPCO apparently feels that they have the right to do it. So I am going to follow up. I've asked Attorney Bradford if he will get with our folks to see, just what is going on with it, and maybe come back out and update you all and have somebody from SWEPCO to come and talk with you about why they're doing what they're doing.
SWEPCO did come out. And
They did?
And it's just not, it's not the abuse, it's not the use of the right of way. It's just the pole that's there, even in the right of way. And on 78, I don't know any other place, they're like 10. And it's just like a transformation right there in front. Now, one is not on the right of way, I'm sure they have an agreement, but that's not the complaint. Is there was no communication or no opportunity for public input from the residents who are going to be impacted by this. I served on the airport authority here for years, and if we were going to extend a runway, which was necessary, so we're not arguing the necessity of it, but if we were going to extend a runway, it was going to affect the surrounding residents. The FAA required that there had to be some public input about that, and we're just saying, how could it happen? Because maybe there was another way to do it. Of course, our big concern is real obvious. It comes south, it goes west of 78, gets to St. Vincent, and it goes back south to on the other side of 3132. And as African-American residents, our concern is you could have gone south, down further down by 3132, and not come through the Cedar Grove area to get to the same point. And it just appears it was a selective, that the risk or whatever it is, these are not metal, these are steel poles. And if they topple for any reason, any structure, anybody there is smashed. So whatever is the risk, or if something goes wrong, it's been allocated to our neighborhood and our residents and our loved ones, and not someplace else. So we just feel if that was going to happen, we should have had some input from somebody, whether it's the MPC, whether it's the city, or a SWEPCO, or some public input, so that we could have some say-so on this type of risk being allocated to our community.
And we certainly understand your issue here. I really do understand your issue. But unfortunately, that we assume, and that may be the wrong word, once we give and agree on our right-of-ways in which they contract to run their services, that they're handling it in the proper way. As it relates to citizen input, I'm not sure, but the administration have taken this under consideration, and they will be in contact with the SWEPCO people and see if it's still time, or what alternatives, what options are available to address the issue with those poles. You just said they just look bad for the community.
They do. And I would implore you to just drive through the area. Drive down St. Vincent Avenue.
We'll do that. I will.
And take a look at that area in Cedar Grove and just see how it looks. Now, I did not realize until seeing this, and then it made me aware of looking around. Now, if you drive up East Kings, they have poles on East Kings, the silver poles. They're not nearly as big. And so it just seems to me now, as I look around, that I become more aware of what's going on. We're not a substation, we're a community.
And I appreciate that, and we have agreed, and the council is sensitive. The administration will review it. We'll see did they violate anything within our agreements, and if there's an option to do something different, we'll pursue that also. And we will be back in touch with you.
Thank you for your opportunity to speak.
We have your address. So if there's something we need to communicate to you, we'll do that too, okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you for coming down.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Okay.
I think it is important that I'm glad to hear that administration is going to follow up with, through legal of what we can do.
Yes.
But I think it would be a good idea to have SWEPCO come and talk to the council, because my understanding is that there will be a number of upgrades throughout the city. And to let us know. I know when the upgrade at the substation started, before the poles ever started going in, I began to get calls from citizens saying, hey, what's going on? There's big equipment in my front yard, and I don't know what's going on. And SWEPCO did go out and put some door hangers out and some things like that to let citizens know they were going to be working at the substation over the next few weeks. But and I encourage them to be more proactive as they continue this work.
Right.
But I think it would be a good idea to get, to know what their timeline is, if they're going to be, when the next substation is and what's going to happen there, and so we can each be prepared for it, and as we go to community meetings, be able to talk about it.
I concur.
It almost seems, I'll say I'm frustrated they haven't taken the initiative to do that.
Absolutely.
Already. We shouldn't have to
Absolutely.
ask them to come tell us
Absolutely.
that. I mean, it shouldn't be that much of a surprise to us, and this is.
And we,
When
you
you
know.
speak with them, Mayor, can you invite them to the next meeting?
I will, and, and I've met with them several times about other issues, and and sometimes we get a little pushback saying, we have an agreement that y'all have signed, and we don't need to notify you. I mean, I've even heard that kind of talk. But I will certainly have another meeting and say to them that, these are the people that they serve. And I think that they should communicate whenever there will be these kinds of changes in the community. We don't always know, and I just hate to say that, but we don't always know where they're going to be, what they're going to be doing. But we will have that conversation, and I'm going to ask Attorney Bradford if he will set that up for us.
In addition to my request to you, I'm going to ask that the clerk officially will notify SWEPCO to come before this body. We have questions that we may
At the
want.
next meeting?
If they're available at the next meeting, but as soon as they are available to come.
Mr. Hubbard?
I mean, the council just has some reservations and some issues with what we're hearing here today. Okay? All right, we'll look into that, and we'll you all invited to come back, and when they come, so you'll be a part of the discussion. Because I haven't heard this before. I don't know if anybody else has, but it seemed like a major concern for the residents in that area. We want to address it. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move forward. Ms. Ken Craft, you're available.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Madam Mayor,
3 minutes, your
Council.
name, sir?
Kenneth Kraft at 157 Archer Avenue, Shreveport, 71105. And it sure was heartwarming to have Mr. Cooper and Miss McKinley up here. A guy saved a gal and a gal saved a guy. That's awesome. I want to start out by thanking the mayor and the CO and the department heads for being our guest speakers at the meeting 2 weeks ago in Mardi Gras at the Broadmoor Neighborhood Association and taking questions from the floor. That's very important. And I want to look ahead to our next meeting, which is Dr. Goley, the school superintendent, is the next guest speaker. And that's Tuesday, the 22nd of next month at 6:30 at the Broadmoor Presbyterian Church gym, particularly answer questions about the April 9th 3 tax millage renewals on the April 9th ballot. I want to apologize to Facebook people who sent me happy birthday yesterday. I wasn't thinking, and it was sent to my spam, and I deleted about 80 of them. Thanks, folks, but I got to remember to put it to email and not spam. I want to thank the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for coming to their senses and approving the Red River sedimentation and hydrology study. I had talked to Patricia in Vicksburg, Secretary for Colonel Cross. All but one contact she had said to change it. One person said don't change it so that's good, and certainly that's going to be done in-house by the Corps. Finally, I want to come up with a somewhat tongue-in-cheek Team Shreveport. I've got this council and this mayor on the same side of the ball on offense. I had the last council playing defense to Mayor Glover because of some of the disagreements, one might say. And very quickly, I've got the center of Stephanie Lynch. Sorry you're not here. I've got guards for B and G, for blocking guards, and that's districts B and G. Tackles, I've got that team, you two fellas, A and E. There's my tight end because he can block and he can catch. And there's my wide receiver in E because, I mean, he flew in that A-18, my goodness. Wide receiver, he might think it means Washington Redskins. I don't know. He might want to go long and go north. You know, we had another Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, but this is our Lieutenant Colonel.
I'm the running back.
Middle linebacker, I've actually got this young lady. I've got the internal auditor at middle linebacker. But because in case she calls, the quarterback is QB, is Ollie Tyler. And we know she can run because she ran for mayor. We know she can pass because she passes legislation, ordinances. We know she can kick because she kicked up a fuss at Washington Mardi Gras. Running back, Brian Crawford. And Charles is in the backfield, our finance director, making sure there's money. And Art Thompson's in the backfield blocking because it's got to clear him. And on the line, you know, I've got a couple tackles. I've got the sport training director and the city engineer in the middle. We've got the public works director and the data processing director at the ends.
Mr. Chairman?
15 seconds.
He's got a few left.
15 seconds. I'll finish my defense.
15 seconds.
The outside linebackers are the two public safety chiefs. They can go wide. The cornerbacks are the city attorney and the city marshal. City attorney's got to be quick, like a cornerback. City marshal, well, we know he's quick. I mean, we know he can drive fast. And the strong safety is SS, kind of reminds you of Barbara, sanitary sewer. And the weak safeties, I kind of flop back and forth between Shelley and Bonnie. Because the city, Team Shreveport, if we don't have a good community development and a good recreation system, our defense is cooked. And let's do like Coach Hank Stram said. Let's together matriculate the ball down the field. That's what he said when they scored against the Vikings in Super Bowl IV. So that's Team Shreveport. It's somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but we are on the same team.
Teamwork.
And one final thing, the judges, the courts, that's the umpire and the referee and the headlinesman and the side judge. You know, if you get out of bounds and you call a bad play or you fumble, you know, that's why we have courts. So let's try to stay away from that part of the team. Let's try to work and avoid the...
Teamwork make the plan work. Okay, thank you, sir. Sammy Mears?
Sammy Mears, 1901 Centenary Boulevard, Shreveport 71101. Because he mentioned his birthday from yesterday, that's why I was out 2 weeks ago. There's no way that I could have been here and celebrating my birthday with the floor noise over at East King Highway's Whataburger because I'm not one of them witches. So therefore, that's why I was there and I couldn't be here. But I did hear Jeff say, or you said, where is Sammy? And then that's why Jeff told it as it was, that I was at the Mardi Gras parade and I just couldn't be in two places at one time. But I did enjoy my birthday's outing as I went to Airline Trejos, East King Highway's Whataburger, Taco Mania, and Cece's Pizza with some good friends.
That's quite a assortment. I mean,
And that's why I had the mouth to eat. As anyone would pretty well figure, but the thing is, before I went out with the floor noise, I was watching Laverne and Shirley, and when Shirley opened up the hall closet before I went out, she saw Laverne hiding in there and screamed, and Laverne had to get out of town, and Shirley said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Getting away from Vito Mortino." "Who's Vito?" "The guy with the square head, no neck, and hair on his thumb." And Shirley says, "Oh, that Vito, ew!" And then she said, "You marry a guy with a square head, no neck? You know what those kids will turn out to look like? Hello, there's Lenny and Squiggy." So that's why I got with the floor noise immediately to enjoy a good birthday. And there is one little thing that I was asked by Pat Ramsey and some other people at the blessing dinner to mention. They need a fixing over on Mansfield and Jewella Avenue. I've gotten word from some people that that place does not look too good and it needs to be fixed up as well. And the other thing was that one time Laverne was speaking to a person in the cemetery before she left. Shirley says, "Laverne," and she goes with her eyes like that, and then she bumps into Shirley and they scream in the cemetery, and Laverne says, "What are you trying to do, Cheryl? Wake up the dead?" And then of course at the very start she always says, "Laverne and Shirley is filmed before a studio audience." Thank you.
Thank you, Sammy, and happy belated birthday, okay? Mr. Craig B. Lee?
Good morning. Good afternoon, Sammy up here playing. Craig Lee, 1035 Eustis Street, Shreveport, Louisiana. I think all of you have a copy of our 8th annual C.C. Antoine Black History Celebration. We kicked off this past Friday at Bethlehem Missionary Baptist Church out on West 70th, where C.C. Antoine is actually buried. And of course, the church sits across the street from the 900 acres of land that C.C. Antoine owned at one point, which used to be called the Flournoy Plantation, which is now home to General Electric plant and the former General Motors plant. But we wanted to invite you guys to come out for the remaining events. I'll be speaking at a few other schools over the next few days. I'm talking about Black history's role in promoting cultural diversity and creating future cultural social entrepreneurs. On Friday, our partner in this endeavor, every year Southern University, will be premiering the film Antoine Fisher and having a discussion. We started that on Sunday with the premiering of Malcolm X. On Saturday is our largest day, the C.C. Antoine Black History Fest. Will be at the fairgrounds. You'll see all of the activities, the 2-mile walk for life, health and wellness fair, all types of entertainment and positive speakers that'll be there. And on Sunday, we close out with cleanup at C.C. Antoine House and over at the park. And we'll have Black History film viewing that night, the movie Mandela Walk to Freedom. We have been doing this now for 8 years. And of course, in September, we come back for the C.C. Antoine birthday celebration. Just to put you guys on notice, this year, C.C. Antoine's great-granddaughter will turn 100 years old, May 1st. So she's C.C. Antoine's oldest living relative. So we're going to celebrate her life day on May the 1st, but we're going to also celebrate in concert with C.C. Antoine's birthday, which he would have been 180 years this year. I want to thank, as a byproduct of the bond money that has now been infused, and also resources that Senator Greg Tarver has helped to reinfuse into the park through community development. Revitalization has started to take place at C.C. Antoine Park. We did get the community development to buy into our C.C. Antoine Square redevelopment component, which helps to revitalize the Allendale community. I think I'm almost out of time, so I'll wait to
We got an additional minute if you need it.
So from that overall standpoint, the park now becomes the centerpiece to this whole thing. But we do this on an annual basis because the world needs to actually know. Our objective is to build the C.C. Antoine Black History Celebration into the world's largest Black History celebration, which creates cultural tourism in the area. We're focused on our C.C. Antoine history trail that will start in West Shreveport and come all the way into the inner city. And we seek to have this as a revitalization piece. This is why I also want to implore this body to focus on passing or focusing on helping to pass legislation that will give approval for I-49 coming through the Allendale community, because that will help to revitalize that area. And that's what C.C. Antoine was all about. Couple of quick notes. Everything that you see in this city, from the city government, from the starting of Charity Hospital that is now University Health, to the school board, was all started by C.C. Antoine. And he is to be celebrated and elevated, and hopefully we will continue to embrace his legacy as we move forward. Thank you.
Mr. Lee, let me thank you, because your commitment to helping to enlighten the community on C.C. Antoine and his legacy in Shreveport, and as well as statewide, has created a catalyst for the revitalization of this around that park. I was speaking with Ms. Moore on yesterday. We actually, next week, we're going on a tour.
Good go.
Yeah, and because there are other opportunities that has availed themselves, and we want to take that seriously. You know, and the fact that you help persuade Senator Tarver to help in providing resources to help brighten that community. And I see great opportunities around that park.
Absolutely.
And your 8-year commitment to that is to be commended.
If we tell, let me say this. Right now, the world believes that civil rights and human rights started in Georgia and Alabama. It actually started in Louisiana. But we've never told our story. And North Louisiana definitely has never told our story. And if we can tell our story, we can create a tourism catalyst to really making some things happen. What they've done with moving the obelisk to the corner, these other things that you see at that park, it's going to serve well. But we got to get other partners on so we can tell the story, so we can lead this effort. And I pinch hit on Sunday at St. John's Baptist Church out in Keysville for Councilman Bowman. And it was really good talking to the young people there at that church about the history, because people don't understand that if you embrace that dynamic and tell that story, that makes us unique in this overall scheme of things.
I agree.
All right.
Look forward to seeing you this week sometime.
Thanks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, the council will retire in the conference room for executive session. You will return, but very briefly.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
we'll need a motion to go into executive session pursuant to LSA RS 4260.
It's been moved and seconded that this body will go into executive session to deal with the item that is proposed. Are there any discussion? If not, please vote. Motion passes 6-0. One is absent today. We will retire to executive session.
It's like the adjournment time now. Time when they come back.
Don't do that.
Robert. White would look great. Give me a favor.